You may have noticed I've been cooking with Italian sausage a lot more recently in my recipes, and that's just because the cost of chicken and beef have been through the roof. Italian sausage is just amazing because it's high in protein, has so much great flavor, and it's still super affordable at the grocery stores. So today I'm sharing 8 of our favorite Italian sausage dinners. These are dinners that are easy to throw together, so delicious, your whole family will enjoy them. Also, thanks to Wild Grain for sponsoring today's video. Let's get to my kitchen. Let's get to cooking. To kick us off today, we are making this sausage and potatoes. It is so good and so easy to make. I have my potatoes right here. I'm only using 1.5 pounds of them. I just cut them into smaller pieces. I'm also dicing 1 yellow bell pepper and 1/2 of an onion. If you don't care for bell pepper or onion, you certainly don't have to add them in, but to a pan on the stove, I have about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. I added my onion and my bell pepper. I'll cook them for about 4 to 5 minutes just on the stove. And then at this point, I'm adding in my 1 pound of sausage. My favorite sausage ever is like the sweet Italian sausage. I just think it has so much great flavor, but I can't always find it at the store. So when I do find it, I buy it. But anyway, once my sausage was cooked through, I added in a tablespoon of tomato paste. Go ahead and add those potatoes in as well. And then you're going to season this with a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, then a little dash of salt and pepper. Give this a stir. You're going to kind of like combine the tomato paste with the rest of the ingredients. And then at this point, you're going to add in 1 cup of chicken broth along with 1/2 cup of heavy cream. The heavy cream adds quite a bit of creaminess. If you don't care for heavy cream, you don't have to add the heavy cream in. Just add 1/2 cup more chicken broth. Give this a stir, and you're going to let this simmer on your stove, stirring it occasionally for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then once those potatoes are fork tender, add in 1/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese along with 1 cup of baby spinach that you chopped up. Give this a stir. Once the spinach wilts down, you could serve this up. This has to be one of my all-time favorite dinners using Italian sausage just because this dinner is so delicious. Those potatoes are so tender and flavorsome. The sausage, spinach, that creamy mixture mixed all together. It is amazing. Also, this one's very affordable to make as well. Now we're making this creamy Italian sausage pasta. I made this for so many people on this night. We had extended family over for dinner, and I just thought this would be a great dinner for them to have just because it's so yummy. But to this pot of water, I added in my penne pasta. Like I said, I made it for so many people, so I am doubling this recipe. But for the written out recipe that I do have below, it is just like normal measurements. To this pan on the stove, I added in my Italian sausage, onion, garlic, and salt. I'll break the sausage up, and I'm going to cook it through. And then here is what my pasta is looking like. There is so much pasta, but like I said, I am feeding quite a few people on this night. Now that my sausage is cooked through, I'm just removing any excess grease from my pan. This is my favorite way to absorb grease. It is just so simple this way. My mom taught me this trick years ago. But next I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of cream cheese. This is going to add great creamy rich flavor. I'm also going to just add in my heavy cream. Now I'm going to give this a stir, and I'm going to bring this up to a simmer. Once it starts to simmer, I'm going to add in a can of diced tomatoes. Diced tomatoes are a little secret ingredient if you want to bulk up a dish, if you want to make something for a larger amount of people, whether you're making like a soup, a stew, a chili, or a pasta dish. If you add a can of diced tomatoes, it will really bulk up the dish for a low cost. I let this simmer for a few minutes, then I added in my Parmesan cheese along with my chopped up spinach. Give this a stir. Let the Parmesan and spinach wilt down and cook. It will only take a couple of minutes. Once it's wilted down, that spinach, you could serve this up. And then as a side dish tonight, I actually wanted to serve this with some sourdough baguettes. And if you're like me and you like having fresh bread without all the work, you'll probably love Wild Grain. So tonight I'm just doing their sourdough baguettes. You just bake them from frozen right onto the oven rack without thawing and no fuss. They seriously taste like you got them from a local bakery. We have some good bakeries around my house, but seriously nothing that compares to this. Wild Grain uses a slow fermentation process, which makes their sourdough easier on your belly. It's also packed full of nutrients and antioxidants. I'm also making these like mini cherry pies just as a little side to go along with dinner. Then this is kind of like my secret oil mixture. I like to serve it with like bread, baguettes, anything. It's just a little bit of olive oil, salt, and Italian seasoning. I also add in some black pepper, but give it a stir and there you go. It is the most delicious thing to drizzle over your bread. It is amazing. My mom taught me this trick years ago. It really elevates any bread for a low cost, but here's what the baguettes look like out of the oven. I know often whenever I bake frozen goods from the freezer, they kind of taste like frozen. They kind of maybe taste a little bit like my freezer, to be honest, but I'm happy to say that nothing I've made from wild grain tastes like that. Everything is just fresh and delicious tasting. They also offer gluten-free and plant-based boxes. Every item is just so delicious. My family went crazy over these mini cherry pies. I probably should have made more, but Wild Grain was kind enough to give me a discount code for you all. Just click the link in my description box. Use code Julia for $30 off your first box. Plus, they'll throw in free croissants for life. And then once your pasta is tender and your sauce is beautifully creamy like this, just stir everything together. And then there you go. You could serve this up. I serve this alongside a steamed peas. I also serve this with a cut up watermelon. The watermelon was probably the best watermelon I have ever had. It was so sweet. I love melons at this time of year, but this pasta dish was amazing. My whole family loved it. Here's my brother and my sister-in-law, and everybody just really enjoyed the bread as well. This was a total winter dinner. Now we're getting started on the sausage and peppers. This one's a great lower carb option if you're looking for a lower carb meal. I have about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in my pan. The oil's hot. I added in my Italian sausage links. I'll brown them on both sides. They don't need to be completely cooked through, just browned on both sides. But while they're browning, I'm just going to get started on my peppers. I'm slicing 1 green bell pepper. I'll slice a yellow bell pepper as well as a red bell pepper, and I'm going to slice a yellow onion. Back over to my sausages now that they're browned on all the sides. I just remove them to a plate, and in that same pan with the drippings from the sausage, just add those peppers and onion. Give it a little stir, add some salt in there, and you're going to let this cook for about 5 minutes. You want those peppers and onion to slightly soften and, kind of get charred on the outside. This will give them a lot of added flavor. But after 5 minutes, stir in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Then you're going to stir in a half a cup of chicken broth. After that, you're going to add in a can of diced tomatoes along with a teaspoon of oregano. And then you're going to give this another stir, scraping all the flavorful bits off the bottom of your pan. Then you're going to add that sausage back in there, and you're going to let this simmer on a low heat for about 20 minutes. Let the sausage cook through, and then you could serve this up. Your house is going to be smelling delicious at this point. It's going to be smelling so cozy and amazing. We served ours over a bed of white rice, but you could serve this over cauliflower rice if you'd like a lower carb option, or don't serve this over anything. Another delicious option is mashed potatoes, but those diced tomatoes kind of create a sauce, and it kind of drips down into the rice or whatever you serve it over, and it's just so magical. Now we're making this sausage and tomato gnocchi. If you've never tried gnocchi before, you just need to. Add a pound of Italian sausage to a pan on the stove, then add in 1 diced white onion. You're also going to add in some seasoning, so add in a half a teaspoon of salt and pepper, 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and a teaspoon of garlic powder. Break up your sausage and cook it through. And then once your sausage is cooked through, just remove any excess grease from your pan. Next, add in 3/4 cup of heavy cream along with a tablespoon of minced garlic. Open up your cookbook because you will find this on page 116. It's actually just a delicious recipe, and you'll find it in the one pot section. Anyway, also add in a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes along with 4 cups of chopped spinach. 4 cups of chopped spinach might sound like a lot, but it wilts down so small, and spinach is fairly affordable. Also add in 16 ounces of potato gnocchi. If you've never tried gnocchi, it's kind of like a soft Italian dumpling made from potatoes and flour. It is really good, and my little ones really enjoy it. Give this a stir, break up the gnocchi, and let this simmer on your stove on a lower heat for about 15 minutes, stirring it occasionally. Then stir in 1 cup of mozzarella cheese if you're a cheese fan like me, and then you can serve this delicious dinner up. I do want to let you know, if you're not a tomato fan, for most of these recipes today, you do not need to add in those diced tomatoes, but this is delicious. You could add ingredients to this, subtract ingredients, and like I said, if you've never tried gnocchi before, you really should try it. It's also very affordable at the grocery store, and it's very filling. Now we're making this Italian sausage and rice, so grab a pot or a large pan and then add your sausage to it. At this point in the week, I only had Italian sausage with casings, so just break open the casings like this if you only have Italian sausage with casings and you need like regular ground Italian sausage, and then just take the Italian sausage out and then you'll just have the casing left. It's really easy. But then add in your minced garlic and then a diced onion. I didn't have a diced onion, so I added in about a teaspoon of onion powder. If you're not a fan of like onion texture, you could always add in onion powder as a substitute. Just cook your ground sausage through, and then once it is cooked through, just remove it to a plate lined with paper towels and then leave the grease in the pot. Next, you're going to add in 1 packet of creamy chicken rice. I like the Knorr packet, but you could really use like any instant rice, or you could cook your own rice if you like. Then add in the amount of water that the packet calls for. I used 2 cups of water. Let this rice simmer until it is fluffy, and then once your rice is fluffy, you're going to add in diced tomatoes. If you want to give this extra flavor, add the diced tomatoes with garlic and oil, or you could use like Italian style diced tomatoes. Add that cooked sausage back in along with a 1/2 cup of mozzarella cheese and a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese if you're a cheese fan like me. Give this a stir, let the cheese melt down, and then you could serve this simple dinner up. Hey, I know this one doesn't look like much and it's not the most beautiful meal in the world, but don't go knocking it until you try it. It's full of flavor, it's on the affordable side, and it is very delicious. This one's also something you can make ahead of time. You could leave it in your fridge for a few days for kind of like meal prepping. Now we are making this 1-pot spaghetti, so to this large pot on my stove, I'm adding in a pound of Italian sausage, or you could add in ground beef or any meat substitute or ground turkey. I also added in a diced yellow onion. Break the sausage up and cook it through. Once your meat's cooked through, just remove any excess grease from your pot. I'm wiggling a paper towel around in my pot until that grease is mainly absorbed. Now I'm adding in a tablespoon of minced garlic. Just stir that garlic around. Garlic normally cooks in about like 15 seconds. Garlic does burn easy, so just let it cook until it's fragrant. Now add in 1 3/4 cup of chicken broth, a 1/2 cup of water, and then 24 ounces of pasta sauce. Give this a really good stir, and then after that, you are going to add in your spaghetti. So I'm using 8 ounces of spaghetti, so not an entire box, just use 8 ounces of spaghetti. Break the spaghetti in half and add it into your pot. Let this simmer covered for about 18 to 22 minutes, or until the spaghetti is to the tenderness that you like it to be. Make sure you do stir this occasionally while it's simmering, just so the pasta doesn't stick. And then once the pasta is tender, stir in a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Then you could serve it up. This 1-pot spaghetti is the perfect easy weeknight meal to make on any busy night. We topped ours with a little bit extra Parmesan cheese and fresh parsley just to make it look pretty. And then I did serve this with fresh carrots and ranch on the side. So easy to throw together, and I've had some people ask me to like try the food on camera. I'm a little awkward, but here I am. This Italian sausage and veggie sheet pan dinner. This one is an amazing higher protein, lower carb option, and it's a really yummy one to add to your meal rotation. But I just started out by cutting up my veggies. I sliced my 1 red onion, 3 large carrots, and I halved my 1 pound of Brussels sprouts. Add your veggies into a big bowl. You could always use different veggies if you don't like these particular veggies. That's what's so nice about sheet pan meals. You could really make them your own so easily. But I also added in 3 tablespoons of olive oil, my zesty Italian seasoning, and then I'm adding in my 1 teaspoon of ranch seasoning mix. These 2 seasoning mixes together just work so well with this recipe. Give this a super duper good stir. Pull out a sheet pan, line it with parchment paper, add your veggies right onto your sheet pan and kind of spread them out. And then over the top of the veggies, you're going to add your 1 pound of Italian sausage. I'm using the mild Italian sausage, but actually the sweet Italian sausage is my favorite Italian sausage to use for this recipe. My store was just sold out of the sweet Italian sausage, but you could use hot sausage, really any sausage you like. Bake this in a preheated oven to 425 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes, or until your veggies are tender and your sausage is cooked through. Here's what dinner looks like. This is also a great meal if you want to make it into kind of like a freezer meal. You could place this mixture into like freezer bags so easily. I've done that before too, and it works out really, really well. And like I said before, use any veggies you like for this. That sausage is cooked to perfection. Everything is so, so good. Now we're getting started on this lasagna skillet, and I've been making this for years and years. To a pot on the stove, add in a pound of sausage. You could use any type of sausage. You could even use ground beef if you'd like. Just break it up and cook it through. Once you do have your sausage cooked through, you will want to remove any excess grease from your pot. And then once it's cooked through, just add in 2 cups of chicken broth, or you could add in beef broth. Add in a dash of salt, and then I added in way too much pepper. I opened up the wrong side, and as you see, a lot of it dumped out, but it still tasted good. I also added in a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and onion powder. Now add in 24 ounces of marinara sauce. You could use any brand or any type you like. Next, add in a 14-ounce can of diced tomatoes, then add in 3/4 pound of lasagna noodles. You want to make sure you break those noodles up super small. The smaller you break them, the better. That way they'll cook quicker, and then it's easier to take a bite of the noodle that way, and then like get some of the sauce and the sausage. It just works out best. But add your noodles right in there, and you're going to stir this well. Scrape all those flavorful bits off the bottom of your pot. Put the lid on top and let this simmer on low for about 20 minutes, stirring it occasionally. Now I'm getting started on the cheesy mixture. This is my favorite part. To a bowl, add in your cottage cheese, or you could use ricotta cheese, mozzarella cheese, and 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. Give this cheesy mixture a really good stir. Now I'll just set it to the side. If you notice the liquid line gets too low while it is simmering, just add a 1/2 cup more water in at a time until your lasagna is tender. Lasagna does tend to take a little bit longer to simmer other than like spaghetti or other pasta, but once your lasagna is tender, your house will be smelling so good at this point. This recipe is on page 123 in my cookbook. It's in the one pot section, and there's 8 different sections in my cookbook with over 100 recipes. But now just add that cheesy mixture right into your pot, give it a stir. Once the cheese melts down, you could serve this up. This lasagna skillet is one of my favorite recipes to make just because I love making it when I don't feel like putting in the effort of making like a whole pan of lasagna. You can make this in just one pot on your stove. It tastes identical to regular lasagna, but it is way less effort. My husband absolutely loves it. He'll eat bowls and bowls of it. Make sure you're subscribed down below the video so you don't miss the next video like this. I'll see you there. Bye for now.